we got some good sampling done, sort of on the surface of the mine, discovered some new veins, as well as the 5 that was known to us when we originally acquired it. And then we've got this whole new zone that's more than a kilometer away, that, in some ways looks even better than the Carmelitas mine area itself.
Well, hello there, my friends. Chris Marcus here with you for Arcadia Economics. And fortunately, I'm joined by David Stein, who had some news out about Kuya Silver, the company that he runs. And they came back with some interesting results as they have been expanding their resource base and did a sampling program at their Carmelitas prospect, which is also in Peru, along with their flagship asset, Bethania. And David, appreciate you making some time to join me today. And congratulations on the news. Seems like you've had some success there in the sampling program. Perhaps you could walk through the details and tell us what you found.
Sure. So the Carmelitas project is it's located 2 miles west or 3 kilometers west of the Bethania mine. So it's from a practical point of view, it's really all part of the same project, because anything we find here is going to be integrated with Bethania ultimately. But yeah, we acquired this land. We have not done a whole lot of work on it in the last year. We were able to get out there about a month ago and do a sampling program at the mine itself, and then our geologists also discovered a new zone about 1.2 kilometers north of the mine, which we're calling Carmelitas Norte. So really, 2 things with the press release. One is, we got some good sampling done, sort of on the surface of the mine, discovered some new veins, as well as the 5 that was known to us when we originally acquired it. And then we've got this whole new zone that's, more than a kilometer away, that, in some ways looks even better than the Carmelitas, mine area itself. Some of the best samples from the program were actually in that Carmelitas Norte area. So that's a very exciting new discovery for us, as well. I like to refer to Bethania as the gift that keeps on giving, because whenever we do this sort of systematic surface exploration, we're finding these mineralized veins, and sure, they won't all become mining stopes at depth, but some of them will. And so the first step is finding the veins at surface, and then you can follow them at depth and see where the bigger, better zones end up being, and that's how we'll find that's how we find more ore at Bethania itself, or more resources, and that's how we'll find them at Carmelitas as well.
Yeah, and I know that you mentioned in the press release that the veins are pretty similar to what you found at Bethania. So does that help make it a little easier to really understand what you have there, since it is pretty close by and you have some familiarity already?
Yeah, it really does. We're following the same model essentially, that would have been followed with Bethania even before we got there. So, our predecessors at Bethania, would find veins at surface, and start going into the side of the hill and mining them. And we were able to do a drill program last year and really kind of quantify, at least in the immediate area of the mine workings, what was there. But and in doing so, we discovered a whole bunch of new veins that were not known about before. But so we're kind of, again, the same things happening with Carmelita. When we first acquired it, we were aware of 5 veins, of which they were mining 3 of them. Then when we start looking around at surface, we're finding a lot more veins in the same vicinity. And it means that it's just the vein mineralization is a lot more extensive than we initially knew about. And then to boot, we've got that whole new zone that we just discovered with our best samples coming from that new zone. So very, very exciting to see how this project is growing, right in front of our eyes.
And I know you also had increased levels of manganese, which you mentioned shows that there's further potential at depth. Perhaps you could talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, this gets a little bit nerdy, but yeah, we in the Carmelis area, we get some very intense manganese in plus 10% in many of our samples. And we think that this means that it's maybe a slightly different chemistry than Bethania. So whereas Bethania is considered to be an intermediate sulfidation epithermal system, Carmelitas may be a low sulfidation epithermal system. So that what that means practically is that it's a little further away from the porphyry source of where the metals are coming from. So it's further away than in terms of the heat and pressure that would be created when this was originally formed, millions of years ago. So but they're related to each other in the broader sense, in the sense that they're both epithermal systems, related to some heat source and metal source at depth, most likely. And they may be the same source. It may be two different sources, just within the same, kind of broad, geological zone. But anyway, we definitely like what we're seeing, and yeah, we do think in both cases, Bethania and Carmelita, we're at the very upper levels of an epithermal system, and that they're most likely to be good, that they'll go down hundreds of meters at depth.
Okay. And so at this point, I guess the next step is just to continue drilling to further establish exactly what you have there.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to do a lot more sampling as well. Just given the success of this program, I think the field work that we're doing seems to yield really good results. But that being said, to really start, quantifying resources, the best way to do that will be drilling, and so we'll be starting to look at that as well very soon.
Okay. And before we wrap up, just if you could provide any updates on Bethania. I know you've been looking at some options in the meantime before building the mill to do some toll milling. And I know you're close to getting into production. Anything you could update us on regarding the Bethania project?
Yeah, well, I guess I would say stay tuned on that. We're still talking to potential mills that are nearby and looking at our options there. When we put our PEA out a few months ago, it was something that we talked about doing in the first year, and it's something that we can do, really, whether or not we start construction of the mill tomorrow. We can start mining at Bethania very quickly. Within a few months of development, we can start mining and start producing at another mill, use another mill, which is, as you said, called toll milling. So yeah, stay tuned on that. We are looking at that, and that would be certainly an option for us to move forward with some production. And yeah, I mean, we're kind of known, I think, in the market as a near-term producer, and so that's something that is very important to our identity, to de-risk the project, and so it is something where we would like to move forward with. And we talk a lot about production, and sometimes forget about the exploration potential at Bethania, and today's press release really helps kind of circle back and don't forget about the exploration, because it's fantastic, and we're getting a lot of good results there as well. But at the end of the day, if you can grow production and resources through exploration and and production growth, that's really the best of both worlds for investors, I think.
Well, congratulations on the news today, David. And perhaps before we wrap up, can you just let folks know where to find you and how they can get any questions answered about any of the results or anything else regarding Kuya?
Sure. So I would suggest people go to our website, kuyasilver.com. Start there. You can get our presentation. You can sign up for our emails. You can book a meeting with management, and you can get all of our social media and lots of other information about the company. So it is, rather than giving you a whole bunch of different, addresses and at this and that, social media tags. Just go to our website, start there, and then you can always you can get everything you need from there, and follow us on whatever social media you want to.
Well, we will have the link to Kuya Silver in the description field below. And again, congratulations on the results today, David. Appreciate you checking in, and we'll look forward to seeing you again soon.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Really appreciate it.